I didn't hesitate when I entered the living room that night. It was late, and I'd only gotten up to grab a glass of water. I didn't expect anyone to be awake, not my husband, Victor, who was away on a business trip, or Alex, my stepson, who typically stayed locked in his room until noon. So when I saw him sitting on the couch, I froze. Not because he startled me, but because of the way he was looking at me. His eyes were fixed on mine, unwavering. And it took me a moment to understand why. That's when I realized my nightgown. It was so thin, especially under the dim glow of the floor lamp beside him. The sheer fabric clung to my body, exposing far more than I had intended. "Alex," I managed to say, my voice softer than I had meant it to be. He didn't respond, his gaze drifting over me in a way that made my stomach tighten, not out of discomfort, but something far more dangerous. I instinctively gripped the neckline of my gown, suddenly feeling exposed. But it was too late. The look in his eyes said everything. I quickly turned, muttering something about needing water. But my hand shook as I grabbed the glass. His presence in the room still lingered, unspoken and heavy. When I glanced back, he was still watching me, his expression unreadable yet intense enough to steal my breath away. That was the moment everything changed. I suppose I should explain who I am and how I arrived at this point where a single glance from my stepson could unravel me. My name is Margaret, a name that feels too elegant for the mess I've made of my life. I'm 53. Married to Victor Hallworth, my second husband. He's a man of reliability. But that reliability doesn't extend to our personal life. When I married him 10 years ago, I believed I had finally found stability after years of struggling as a single mother. My first husband left me with little more than debt and heartbreak. And Victor offered me the security I'd been craving. But security isn't the same as love. And over time, our marriage became more of a partnership than a romance. Victor travels often, leaving me in a vast, empty house surrounded by expensive furniture but lacking warmth. I tried filling the emptiness with hobbies, gardening, painting. But even that feels like just going through the motions. I've become a fixture in my own home. A woman who fades into the background, unnoticed. That is, until Alex came back. He's 24 now, freshly graduated and home for the summer while he figures out what's next. I've known him since he was a teenager, polite, quiet, and always a little distant. But the Alex who returned this summer was different. He carries himself with newfound confidence. And there's a sharpness in his gaze that wasn't there before. He's grown into himself. And for the first time, I can't help but notice. I tell myself it's harmless, just a passing thought. But that night in the living room, when I caught him looking at me like that, something shifted. I went back to bed, lying awake for hours, replaying the scene in my mind, his lingering gaze, the tension in the air, and the way my body betrayed me, a heat I hadn't felt in years. I told myself it was just a look, a momentary lapse. But deep down, I knew it wasn't. That night marked the beginning of something I couldn't yet name. Something I wasn't ready to admit to myself. Because when I woke up the next morning, the memory of Alex's stare wasn't something I wanted to forget, it was something I wanted to feel again. The morning after that night in the living room, Everything felt sharper. I was hyper-aware of Alex's presence in a way I hadn't been before, his movements around the house. The sound of his voice when he spoke on the phone. Even the faint scent of his cologne that lingered in the hall. It was all amplified. I spent the day trying to keep myself busy. Scrubbing the counters and reorganizing the pantry. As if cleaning could erase the memory of his gaze. But by dinner time, I was a wreck. Victor was still away. Leaving just Alex and me to share an awkward meal. "You've been quiet today, Alex," he said finally, breaking the silence. I glanced up. Startled. His tone was casual. But the weight of his gaze was anything but. "Just tired," I said, forcing a smile. "You sure that's all it is?" The question hung in the air. Heavy and pointed. I could feel my cheeks flush and I quickly looked away. Pretending to focus on refilling my water glass. "You know," he continued. His voice softer now. "About last night." My hand froze mid-air. "What about last night?" "I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable," he said, leaning back in his chair. "It's just. I wasn't expecting to see you like that." My pulse quickened. "Alex. It's fine. Let's just forget about it." "Can you?" he asked. His voice low. Almost daring. I couldn't answer. Instead, I stood abruptly, gathering my plate. "I'm going to clean up." I heard his chair scrape against the floor as he stood and followed me into the kitchen. "Margaret," he said. His voice closer now. I turned to face him, clutching the plate like a shield. "Alex. Stop." He paused. His expression unreadable. Then nodded. Stepping back. "Okay. I'll stop, for now." The way he said it, soft but certain, sent a shiver down my spine. The days that followed were a delicate balancing act. Alex didn't push. But he didn't retreat either. He was always there. Lingering at the edges of my world. Watching. Waiting. One evening, a storm rolled in, knocking out the power. Victor was still in New York. And the house felt cavernous and empty as the rain lashed against the windows. I lit candles in the living room. Their warm glow doing little to ease the tension simmering between Alex and me. "You okay?" he asked, stepping into the room. "I'm fine," I said, setting a candle on the coffee table. He sat on the couch. His posture relaxed. But his eyes were sharp, tracking my every move. "You don't seem fine." I sighed, sitting down across from him. "It's just the storm. It makes the house feel lonely." "You don't have to be lonely," he said. His voice barely above a whisper. My breath caught. But I forced myself to laugh, brushing off his words. "You've been spending too much time reading those dramatic novels." He didn't laugh. Instead, he leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. "Margaret, we both know what this is." My heart pounded. "What are you talking about?" "This," he said, gesturing between us. "I see the way you look at me. And I know you've noticed the way I look at you. I'm not a kid anymore." I stood abruptly. "This conversation is over." I turned to leave. But his hand shot out, gently grabbing my wrist. The contact was electric, sending a jolt through my entire body. "Margaret," he said softly, his eyes locking onto mine. "Don't walk away." For a moment, I stood frozen, torn between every instinct screaming at me to leave and the undeniable pull keeping me rooted in place. "Please," he murmured, his voice cracking just enough to betray the vulnerability beneath his boldness. That was what undid me. I sat back down, my heart hammering as he let go of my wrist. The air between us was heavy, charged with something I couldn't name. "This is dangerous," I whispered. "Sometimes danger is worth it," he replied, his voice steady. The first time was tentative, a collision of longing and restraint that neither of us could hold back any longer. It happened in the faint glow of candlelight, the storm outside muffling the sound of our breaths. When it was over, I lay in his arms, staring at the flickering shadows on the ceiling. "This can't happen again," I said, my voice trembling. "Why not?" he asked, his tone calm but firm. "Because it's wrong," I said, pulling away. "Because of Victor," he interrupted, sitting up. "Victor doesn't deserve you," he continued. "He doesn't even see you, Margaret." "But I do." His words sliced through me, and for a moment, I couldn't respond. "I need time," I said finally, standing and gathering my robe around me. "Please," he nodded, his gaze intense. "Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere." But time didn't make it easier. If anything, it made it worse. The tension between us grew, spilling into every interaction, a brush of hands in the kitchen, a lingering glance across the dinner table, the way his voice softened whenever he said my name. I tried to keep my distance, but it was impossible. Alex had become the center of my thoughts, my pulse quickening whenever I heard his footsteps in the hall. And then one evening, Victor called. "I'll be home tomorrow," he said, his voice brisk. "I've been gone too long." The words sent a wave of panic through me. Victor's presence would shatter the fragile world Alex and I had built, forcing us back into the roles we were supposed to play. After I hung up, I found Alex in the garden, his hands buried in the soil as he tended to the flowers I'd planted months ago. "He's coming back," I said, my voice shaking. Alex looked up, his expression readable. "So what do we do?" "I don't know," I whispered. He stood, brushing the dirt from his hands as he stepped closer. "We don't have to stop, Margaret. We just have to be careful." "Careful?" I repeated, my voice rising. "Alex, this is insane. We're going to get caught." "Then let us get caught," he said, his tone defiant. I stared at him, stunned. "What are you talking about?" "I'm tired of pretending," he said. "I'm tired of hiding. I don't care what anyone thinks." "But I do," I said, tears welling in my eyes. "I can't lose everything, Alex. I can't lose you." He cupped my face, his gaze fierce. "You're not going to lose me. Ever." His words were a promise, but they felt like a warning. That night, as I lay in bed, I couldn't sleep. Victor's impending return loomed over me, And Alex's words echoed in my mind, we don't have to stop. We just have to be careful. But I knew deep down that careful wouldn't be enough. The storm we'd started was already too big to contain. And it was only a matter of time before it consumed us both. Victor returned the next afternoon, carrying his usual air of authority that filled the house. He greeted me with a quick kiss on the cheek, barely looking up from his phone, and gave Alex a curt nod. "It's good to have you back," I said, forcing a smile as I took his suitcase. He glanced at me, his brow furrowing slightly. "You look tired. Are you sleeping well?" "I'm fine," I said quickly, turning away before he could see the flush creeping up my neck. Alex said nothing, his eyes fixed on Victor with a calm that betrayed none of the chaos that had consumed us in Victor's absence. That evening, I found myself standing at the kitchen sink, rinsing dishes while Victor worked in his office. Alex came in quietly, his presence like a magnetic pull I couldn't ignore. "You're going to break that plate," he said softly, gesturing to the one I was gripping too tightly. I set it down, my hands trembling. "You need to stop," I whispered, not daring to look at him. "Stop what?" he asked, stepping closer. "This," I said, finally turning to face him. "The way you look at me. The way you linger." Alex tilted his head, his eyes locking onto mine. "Do you want me to stop?" My breath hitched. I didn't answer. His hand brushed mine as he reached for a towel, his touch sending a jolt through me. "You don't have to keep pretending, Margaret. Not with me. Alex. We can't keep doing this," I said, my voice trembling. "But we are," he said, his voice steady. "And we will." I stepped back, putting distance between us. As footsteps sounded in the hall, Victor appeared in the doorway, looking between us with a curious expression. "Everything okay in here?" he asked, his tone casual but sharp. "Fine," I said quickly, my voice too high. "Just helping with the dishes." Alex nodded, his face a perfect mask of calm. Victor lingered for a moment, his gaze flicking between us before retreating back to his office. The tension in the house became unbearable in the days that followed. Victor's presence was a constant reminder of the line Alex and I had crossed. But it also made every stolen glance and whispered word between us all the more thrilling. One evening, Victor announced that he'd invited an old friend over for dinner. "David Caldwell," he said, pouring himself a glass of scotch. "You remember him, don't you, Margaret?" I nodded, though the name sent a ripple of unease through me. David was an investigator. Sharp, shrewd, and far too observant for my liking. When he arrived, his handshake was firm, his smile polite but assessing. As we sat down to dinner, I felt his eyes on me more than once, his gaze lingering just a moment too long. "This is quite the house," David said, looking around. Victor always did have a taste for the finer things. Victor chuckled. "Well, it helps to have a wife who knows how to make a house feel like home." I forced a smile, my stomach twisting as David's gaze shifted to Alex. "And you?" he said, leaning back in his chair. "What's your plan, Alex?" Following in your father's footsteps? Alex shrugged. His tone measured. I'm still figuring things out. David's smile didn't reach his eyes. Smart. No need to rush into anything. The rest of the evening passed uneventfully. But I couldn't shake the feeling that David was watching me, studying the dynamics of our household with a precision that made my skin crawl. That night, I found Alex waiting for me in the garden, his figure barely visible in the moonlight. He knows something, I said, wrapping my arms around myself. David? Alex asked, his tone calm. I nodded. I can feel it. The way he looks at us. It's like he's putting pieces together. Let him, Alex said, stepping closer. He doesn't have anything on us. But what if he finds something? I whispered, my voice trembling. We'll deal with it together, Alex said, brushing my cheek with his hand. The following day, things took an unexpected turn. I was in the study, sorting through a stack of mail, when I came across an envelope addressed to me. An unfamiliar handwriting. Inside was a single piece of paper with a typed message. I know what you've been doing. Meet me at the diner on 5th at 8 p.m. tonight. Come alone. My hands shook as I reread the note. It wasn't signed. But I didn't need a name to know who had sent it. Something was wrong. Victor's voice startled me. No, nothing, I said, forcing a smile. That evening, I told Victor the first was meeting a friend for coffee. He barely looked up from his laptop as I left. My heart pounded as I made my way to the diner. Sophie was waiting for me in a corner booth, her expression smug as I slid into the seat across from her. You've been busy, she said, stirring her coffee. What do you want? I asked, cutting straight to the point. She smiled, leaning back in her chair. Money. Of course. Enough to make me forget what I've seen. I clenched my fists under the table. You don't have any proof. Don't I? She said, pulling out her phone. She tapped the screen, and my blood ran cold as I saw a grainy photo of Alex and me in the garden. His hand on my cheek. Delete it, I said, my voice shaking. Not until I get what I want, she replied. 50,000 by the end of the week. I don't have that kind of money, I said, my mind racing. Then figure it out, she said, standing and slipping her phone back into her purse. Because if you don't, Victor will be the first to know. When I told Alex about the meeting, he was furious. She's bluffing, he said, pacing the room. She has photos, I said, my voice trembling. And she's not bluffing. Then we'll pay her, he said. With what? I asked. I don't have access to that kind of money. And neither do you. His jaw tightened, his eyes darkening. Then we'll find another way. Over the next few days, the tension in the house reached a breaking point. Victor seemed oblivious, wrapped up in his work. But David's presence lingered like a shadow. And then there was Sophie, whose demands were growing louder and more urgent. That morning, as I sat in the kitchen, nursing a cup of coffee, Victor walked in, looking sharper than usual in a tailored navy suit. I'll be out most of the day, he said, scrolling through emails on his phone. What's going on? I asked, trying to keep my voice casual. A meeting downtown, he replied, looking up briefly. David's coming with me. Something about loose ends. Loose ends? The phrase sent a chill through me. What kind of loose ends? Victor shrugged. Nothing for you to worry about. Just business. But as he kissed me on the cheek and walked out the door, I couldn't shake the feeling that he wasn't telling me the whole truth. By mid-afternoon, my anxiety was spiraling. Alex was out, probably trying to find a way to deal with Sophie. And I was left alone in the house with nothing but my thoughts. I paced the living room, my mind racing with possibilities. And then the doorbell rang. When I opened it, Sophie stood there, her arms crossed and her expression smug. You're late, she said, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. What are you talking about? I asked, my voice trembling. The money, she replied, turning to face me. I told you I wanted it by today. I told you I don't have that kind of money, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Well, that's unfortunate, she said, pulling out her phone. Because Victor might be very interested in seeing these. She held up the screen. And there it was again. The photo of Alex and me in the garden. Clear enough to erase any doubt about what was happening between us. Sophie. Please. I said, my voice breaking. You don't have to do this. Oh. But I do, she said, her tone mocking. Unless, of course, you suddenly figure out how to meet my price. Before I could respond, the front door opened, and Alex walked in. He froze when he saw Sophie, his eyes narrowing. What's going on? He asked, his voice low and dangerous. Just having a little chat with your stepmother, Sophie said, smirking. Alex stepped forward, his posture tense. You need to leave. Not until I get what I came for, she said, holding up her phone. Alex's gaze hardened. This ends now, he said, his voice cold. You think that's my only copy? She sneered. If you so much as breathe a word of this to anyone, I'll make sure you regret it. Alex said nothing. He stepped closer, his posture firm. This ends now, he repeated. Sophie's eyes widened for a moment, but she quickly recovered, her smirk returning. Big talk, she said. Let's see if you can back it up. She stormed out, slamming the door behind her. She's not going to stop, I said, my voice shaking. She will, Alex said, his tone firm. I'll make sure of it. Later that night, I overheard Victor on the phone in his study, his voice low and urgent. David's getting too close, he said. We need to handle this quietly. No loose ends. The phrase sent a chill down my spine. I stepped closer to the door, straining to hear. If it comes to it, Victor continued, we may need to cut ties entirely. You know what I mean. My stomach turned. He wasn't just talking about silencing David. He was talking about eliminating him. I found Alex in the garden later that night, pacing near the edge of the property. I told him everything I heard. I said, my voice trembling as I recounted Victor's words. Victor's planning something dangerous. Alex's expression darkened. We need to stop him. How? I asked. My voice breaking. He has all the power. He has the money. The connections. I whispered. He doesn't have you. Alex said. His voice firm. And that's what terrifies him. The next morning, everything came to a head. I woke to the sound of raised voices coming from the study. Alex and Victor were arguing. Their words muffled. But my heart raced as I crept closer. Staying out of sight. You're a selfish, reckless bastard. Victor. Alex spat. You've jeopardized everything I've built. And you're a liar and a coward. Victor shot back. You've been using Margaret to cover your crimes. And I won't let you drag her down with you. Victor's voice dropped. Cold and menacing. What are you going to do? Alex? Run to the police? They'll laugh you out of the station. You're nothing but a spoiled boy who doesn't know his place. Maybe not. Alex said. His voice steady. But I know enough to ruin you. The room went silent. And I held my breath. Terrified of what would happen next. Finally, Victor spoke. His voice eerily calm. If you want to ruin me, go ahead. But know this, I'll take Margaret down with me. Everything she's worked for. Everything she's built, it'll all be gone. Do you really want that on your conscience? I stepped into the room before Alex could respond. My voice shaking. Stop it. Both of you. This has gone too far. They turned to me. Their faces tense and angry. This is your fault. Margaret. Victor sneered. You think you can stop this? It's already too late. Let it go. Victor. I cried out. He laughed bitterly. Care about me? Don't kid yourself. Margaret. You're just another pawn in this game. Alex moved toward him. His fists clenched. But I stepped between them. Enough. I cried out. I won't let you destroy each other. Victor sneered. You think you can stop this? It's already too late. Later that evening, Alex and I made a decision. We have to leave, he said. His voice firm. There's no other way. I nodded. My heart heavy. But what about Victor? I asked. He'll come after us. Alex replied. Let him. We can't just disappear. I said. We don't have a choice, he said. His voice breaking. We packed quickly, taking only what we needed. But as we were leaving, the sound of a car pulling into the driveway froze us in our tracks. Victor stepped out, his face twisted with rage. As he marched toward us. Going somewhere? He asked. His voice cold. Let us go. Victor. I said. My voice trembling. He shook his head. His laughter bitter. You think you can just walk away from this? From me? Alex stepped forward. His posture tense. We're done. Victor. You've lost. Have I? Victor said. His gaze shifting to me. You think he can protect you? Margaret? He's a boy playing at being a man. He'll abandon you the second things get tough. That's enough, Alex said, his voice steady. Victor sneered. You're nothing, Alex. And she'll see that soon enough. Before Victor could say more, Alex grabbed my hand, pulling me toward the car. We're leaving, he said. Victor didn't stop us. He just stood there, his expression dark and triumphant, as if he'd already won. We drove for hours, the tension between us thick and heavy. I couldn't shake the feeling that Victor wasn't finished, that he'd find a way to drag us back into his web. As we pulled into a quiet motel on the outskirts of a small town, Alex turned to me, his expression serious. We'll figure this out, he said softly. I nodded, though the weight of everything we'd left behind pressed heavily on my chest. In the end, we weren't free. Not really. Victor's threat still lingered like a shadow over everything we tried to build. But as Alex pulled me into his arms that night, whispering promises of a future where we could finally be happy, I let myself believe, if only for a moment, that we could escape the past. The quiet hum of the motel's air conditioner was the only sound that filled the room as I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the cheap floral wallpaper. Alex stood by the window, peeking through the blinds every few minutes, like he expected Victor to appear at any moment. We can't stay here forever, I said, breaking the silence. I know, Alex replied, his voice tight. He had been calm during the drive, resolute even. But now I could see the cracks beginning to show, the tension in his shoulders, the way his jaw clenched every time he glanced outside. It was only a matter of time before the weight of everything we'd done caught up with him. We need a plan, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. The plan is to keep moving, Alex said firmly. Stay ahead of him. You think Victor is just going to let this go? I asked, my voice trembling. You heard what he said, Alex replied. He'll come after us. Let him. Alex, I said, tears welling in my eyes. We can't live like this forever. We don't have a choice, he said, his voice breaking. The breaking point came 3 days later. We were on the road, heading west toward a town Alex said was small enough to disappear in, when we noticed the car behind us. It had been following us for miles, staying just far enough back to avoid suspicion. But neither of us could ignore the nagging sense that we were being watched. It's him, Alex said, his hands gripping the steering wheel tightly. Are you sure? I asked, my voice trembling. Alex didn't answer. Instead, he took the next exit, weaving through side streets in an attempt to lose our tail. But the car stayed with us, its headlights glaring in the rearview mirror. Hold on, Alex said, his voice tense as he made a sharp turn onto a gravel road. The car behind us hesitated for a moment before following, its tires kicking up dust as it closed the distance between us. Alex, what are you doing? I asked, panic rising in my chest. I'm ending this, he said, his voice steady. He brought the car to a sudden stop, throwing it into park before stepping out. Stay here, he said, his tone leaving no room for argument. I watched as he approached the other car, His shoulders squared and his fists clenched. The driver's door opened. And Victor stepped out. His face twisted with rage. "You've got some nerve," Victor said, his voice cold. "This ends now," Alex said, his voice steady. "This ends now," he repeated. Victor laughed bitterly. "You think you can threaten me? You have no idea who you're dealing with." "I'm not afraid of you," Alex said, stepping closer. "You should be," Victor said, pulling a gun from his coat. My breath caught in my throat as I scrambled out of the car. My heart pounding. "Victor. Stop," I said, my voice shaking. He turned to me, his eyes narrowing. "This is your fault, Margaret. You made this mess." "Put the gun down," I said, my voice shaking. "Why should I?" he asked, his tone mocking. "You've already destroyed everything. Why not finish the job?" Alex lunged at him, grabbing for the gun. A shot rang out, echoing through the empty road. For a moment, everything went still. Victor staggered back, clutching his side as blood seeped through his shirt. Alex stood frozen, the gun now in his hands, his face pale. Hill, he said finally, his voice hollow. "We have to go." I nodded, tears streaming down my face as I helped him to his feet. We didn't stay to see what happened next. We didn't stop. We just kept driving, heading toward an uncertain future. And for the first time, I truly believed we might just escape. But deep down, I knew it wasn't over. Not yet. We drove through the night, the silence between us oppressive. Neither of us knew what to say. But with every mile we left more of our old life behind. The only thing that kept us going was the promise we had made to each other, that we would be together, no matter the cost. As dawn broke, we pulled into a small town. It felt like a new beginning. But I couldn't shake the feeling that the past was still chasing us. Alex and I walked into a diner to get some food. The silence lingered between us as we ate, neither of us knowing what the future would hold. Then Alex's phone buzzed. He looked at the screen, his expression darkening. "It's Victor," he said. I froze. "He says he's coming after us," Alex continued, his voice tight. "He won't stop until we're back where we belong." I looked at Alex, my heart racing. The weight of everything we had done felt like a stone in my chest. "What now?" I whispered. "We keep moving," Alex said firmly. "We don't stop. We can't." I nodded, the weight of the situation settling over me once again. But as Alex's hand found mine under the table, I knew we couldn't stop. No matter what came next, we had to stick together. And this time, there was no turning back.